Hi, I'm Heather from The Helpful Counselor, and this is lesson number 1 on my free mini course on relational aggression. And while you progress through the course, it's my hope that you will learn some of the fundamental principles that have to do with relational aggression, as well as some actual things, strategies, techniques, tips to use and implement to help you in your pursuit of helping your students handle relational aggression. Relational aggression is a monster of a topic. It's a true beast. And I say this as someone that came from working inner city Flint and Detroit. And hands down, relational aggression is one of the trickiest topics that I have had to deal with, because most of the issues that I used to deal with were pretty straight on, and relational aggression is anything but. So let's go ahead and dive in, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So, the very first order of business that we should do is to define what relational aggression is. Relational aggression was first termed by some researchers back in 1995 to include behaviors that are intended to manipulate or harm somebody's relationship or social standing. So basically, behavior that is meant to hurt somebody's relationship with someone else or how their peer group perceives them is considered relational aggression. So, what does that look like? And what does it sound like? So, let's go into some examples of that, and then I'll give you a tip on how to distinguish relational aggression from other behavior. So, some of the common types of relational aggression, occurrences of relational aggression that I work with at the elementary level, is when a student tells another student who they should and shouldn't be friends with. So, in reality, we should all decide and determine who our friends are. And if someone is telling us, don't be friends with them, or oh, you're friends with them, or saying other things that would cast doubt or make someone not seem as appealing of a friend, then that's relational aggression. Sometimes it is bold, where the student will flat out threaten removal of their friendship if they don't get what they want from their friends. So if they say something like, if you sit by Danelle at recess or at lunchtime, then I'm not going to be your friend anymore. Or if you talk to Renee, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. Or if you pick Derek to be on the team, then you can't come over my house tonight. In each one of those examples, that was relational aggression, because their actions and behavior was and words were meant to limit someone's relationship with someone else, and also their relationship with that particular person. Now, it's not always as obvious as that, because typically people who engage in relational aggression don't make threats. What they say, the threat is more implied, and it's more of a disapproval. So in order to get along with the social group, you need to conform, and if somebody is not included, including other people into that social group may in fact, hurt their ability to be in the group. So they will not engage with people they want to be friends with just because they think someone might disapprove, and that could be through a nonverbal example of relational aggression, such as like a dirty look or a side eye, where it's a disapproving, like, are you kidding me kind of a thing. And so, something as simple as a glance, if it's conveying disapproval, or if it's conveying that someone is somehow lesser than or should be considered lesser than to somebody else, that is relational aggression. When that behavior, whether it's words or an action that's silent, is used to make someone seem less appealing to that peer group, that is relational aggression. another example, just jumping back to the verbal examples of relational aggression that I deal with quite a bit, is when students will repeat rumors or gossip they hear, and they'll often say, "Oh, I'm just trying to help. I just wanted to help them." Well, it's not helpful when you repeat what you heard to 4 or 5 other people, and now instead of this being something one person overheard 2 other people talking about your friend, so 4 people are involved. Now you went and told 3 other people, so now there's 7 people involved instead of the 4 people involved. And then it starts to spread like wildfire. And when they involve other people, when they are the messenger relaying information back and forth, they are not so much motivated by the desire to end the behavior. They are reveling in the into the buzz or the excitement that they get as kind of being that central intricate key player. They have this information, they're able to get sort of the lowdown, and it can actually elevate their social standing because they have the dirt. And that's one of the main reasons why students will gossip and spread rumors, is because when they feel like they're in the know or they have something to say and they share it with somebody else, they do that in a sense to try to elevate their own social standing. When what they say hurts somebody else's relationships or their social standing, then that is relational aggression. And I mean, it's people will talk, and they talk about other people, they talk about what they hear, they talk about the football game or who's dating who and all of that. So that's not always relational aggression. But when it's said or conducted in a way that shows disapproval, or somehow that person should be regarded as less because of it, like, did you see who she took to the dance? Can you believe he went with her to the movies this weekend? So that questioning is really conveying this disapproval of somehow that person did not make the grade. And then the students, when they're confronted about this, they say, "Well, I was just asking a question. I wasn't saying anything mean." Well, it's not what you say, but how you say it. So tone of voice and facial expressions and all of that really play a key part. But when you want to really be able to distinguish and identify, is it relational aggression? You need to ask, does it fit the definition? Is what they said, are they trying to hurt somebody's social standing? Are they trying to make that other person seem lesser than them somehow? And if they're putting someone down in a social setting, or to somebody else, or discouraging a friendship, or flat out dictating who's in and who's out, then that definitely falls under relational aggression. Now, relational aggression is often confused with a friendship problem, and that's how they usually come to me. It's under the guise of they have a friendship problem. And then we start digging in, and the behavior doesn't really seem all that friendly. And I can't help but think, with friends like these, who needs enemies, right? So when it's a true friendship problem, then friends do fight and they do get in arguments, and sometimes they need some help with that. But they're not trying to hurt their friendships with other people. They're not trying to make the other person look less than. It's that one person might want to go to the movies and the other person might want to go to a ball game on the weekends. So they clash about that, and then one of the friends accuses the other friend that they always get a pick, that they never get a turn, and so they start to kind of squabble over that. that is a friendship problem. That is a disagreement, and that is a friendship problem. That's not relational aggression. Now, however, if the one friend then started talking to their mutual friends about how Janelle never lets anybody else have a chance to pick what they get to do, and how Janelle's so bossy and that blah 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 and all this and that, and starts to say mean things that makes the other peers look in a negative fashion at the other student, then that starts to cross the threshold of relational aggression. When they are trying to damage that other person, the target's relationships or social standing, that is relational aggression. Now, another thing to keep in mind about relational aggression is that relational aggression, if it is repeated behavior, after the child understands that their behavior is not acceptable and they are taught the expectations and sort of given that support, if they continue their behavior more than twice, so by like kind of third time, you're out, right? 3 strikes, you're out. And if they've been told twice this behavior is not acceptable, here's the expectations, here's what you can do instead, here's where you can go when you feel pressured to do this, you need to do this instead. And if they continue, relational aggression can also turn into bullying, and that happens after I have determined the third time. If I have met with a student and we have discussed how their behavior is not acceptable and we have set up the proper expectations and they have alternative behaviors and they have set goals and said what they were going to do instead of the maladaptive relational aggression behaviors, and they continue on this pattern of trying to sabotage or hurt somebody else's relationships with others, then that is bullying. And I let them know after the second time that I met with them that if this behavior continues, I'm going to need to get help from some additional people, because we have now met twice and talked about this. We have gone over what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. You know that this is hurting somebody else. And as a school counselor, I cannot allow somebody to hurt somebody else. And when I know someone can get hurt, then I am legally bound to get help from somebody else, so they understand the limits of confidentiality. It's not okay for them just to hurt somebody emotionally and make them feel worthless and make them feel like they're isolated and all alone and just say, well, I wasn't in a good mood that day. That doesn't cut it. And we need to make sure that we have a safe environment for all of our students. So it's really important that we teach expectations, we teach students the correct behaviors, we give them some replacement behaviors, and that we let them know what the next steps are and that we follow a response to intervention. If what we are doing is not working, we need to do something different. And I know from some of the counselors that have reached out to me on my Facebook page, one of the big things is that it's this constant on again, off again with the same sort of kind of sets of students. And when what we're doing isn't working, we need to change what we're doing, and hopefully you will get some tips and ideas of how you can do that with your own students in this. So that's it for the first lesson. We took a look at the definition of relational aggression. We looked at some verbal and nonverbal examples of relational aggression. I gave you a tried and true method to determine if behavior is relational aggression. when you can tell if it's a friendship problem or relational aggression, and then when we should take action when the behavior constitutes bullying. And remember, bullying, if it fits in, if it's targeted, repeated behavior and there's an imbalance of power, then it is bullying. And it's no different if someone is being attacked physically or if they are being attacked emotionally. And relational aggression is really hard for our students because when you think back to where they're at developmentally, they are moving away from identifying with their family or with their caretakers, and they are starting to identify more and more with their peer group. And that is why relational aggression is so hurtful to them, because it makes them feel unwanted. It makes them question who they are because it is covert and undercover. It's not an obvious, oh, they're being mean. They start to think, well, why don't they want me? What's wrong with me? And it causes a lot of emotional distress. And we'll go into some of those details in one of the next lessons. But what I want to hit up first, in the second lesson, we are going to go into the motivating factors of why students resort to relational aggression time and time again. So I will see you there.